Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Times Hour. Okay, Paul, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please welcome to the tea our next special guest. It all started in the tea dot with store-bought bees and a homemade spirit lighter than the breeze. A chance encounter on the island which expanded her world by showing her how to properly hurl the disc with that proper flick of the wrist. She thought her game was smoking until she met the big names at the US Open. However, she wowed the crowd and built her fame. She's the Buckaroo Banzai Award winner and fantastic plastic spinner with a wide smile who can stride for miles. Never spastic and always sparkling and fantastic, she's the trailblazer and fargazer with her eyes on the horizon. She partied and played hacky sack where the field was not so competitive and more laid back, but she banked her fame on the fact that she's always got game. Joe Mama joked you got hushed. Well, this Mama Jo has the strokes to make the crowd shushed. She took down a lane before King became the queen of the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the tea, joining us from Toronto's backyard in lovely Collingwood, Ontario, Joanne Mama Jo Gallagher.
Nice.
Hi,
Welcome to the show. Thank you. Thank you very much for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank
This
you,
is our
Paul.
honor. Aha.
Thank you for the lovely intro.
So we're going to just jump right into it. But first of
Okay.
all, we just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. This is wonderful and rare privilege. Again, we've got a very Toronto-centric person. You can see just the peak of, there you go, Toronto Maple Leafs. Huge Leafs fan, huge Toronto booster. So Mace, why don't you tee this up with a little bit of the framework?
Right on. Well, so for starters, you've been a member of the PDJ since 1986, and your PDJ number was 2741. And other people that are in the 2700s include Dan Barney Barnard, 2718, Jim Ola at 2720, Pat Chartrand at 2731, Christopher Lowcock at 2749. You're also a member of the inaugural class of the Toronto Ultimate Club Hall of Fame. And it just made me wonder, is there any other Hall of Fames that you're a member of?
Oh,
Not yet.
just that one. Yeah, just that one.
When did that take place? What year did they induct you?
Oh,
It was 2010.
yeah. What, 2010?
2010, I think. Yeah.
2010.
Yeah, no,
2010.
right on.
Yeah.
That was back when your knees still worked.
My knees were still good then. Yeah. Yeah. Although I was very much playing recreationally at that time. But yeah, that was a huge honor. I was inducted in as one of the promoters and developed like person who just encouraged a lot of other people to play the great game of ultimate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we will definitely get into all of the reasons why that you are an ultimate icon. But before we do, Mace, one more question on the PDJ number.
I have two questions on the PDGA number, and they kind of work together. We always ask people, when did you get it, and what was the motivation, and then we also always ask, is there a reason that maybe you might have got a different number, like maybe if you'd followed your friends and not delayed, and so was there a specific event that you got it for, and then was there a time, like lots of people go, if I had got it with my friends, I would have, or like Tom Monroe and Levon Wolf. Levon Wolf's like, well, Tom was trying to get us to get it, and he ended up with 33, and I ended up at 586 because I didn't have enough money to pay at the time. And so I've heard that story plenty of times too. So
You're right.
do you have a good story that goes along with your PDJ number?
Not really. I know that we all sort of resisted for whatever reason. I think in Canada there was always this perception that the PDGA was more, maybe more of an American sort of group of players, and yeah, we were still coming from the casual hacky sack, throwing the disc around, freestyle, playing golf. So I think when you paid your entry fee to the tournament, but then when there was this extra sort of PDGA, you had to join the PDGA, and I think a lot of people sort of pushed back against it at the beginning. But it wasn't until, and I don't know if it was Cincinnati that I was going to a tournament in Cincy, or maybe Rochester, where they said, if you're going to play, you have to be a member. And I imagine, would it have been $20? I'm not really sure what the fee would have been back then, or
I
25
don't know about
bucks.
the,
Might have
I don't know
even
about
been
the,
10.
What's that, Paul?
could have been 10 US, but
Okay.
I think probably most likely it was an event in Rochester, considering how close you are bunched up
Yeah.
with a bunch of other Torontonians.
Yeah. I think that was probably my motivation for joining the PDGA. But
Right.
once I did, I was like, okay, I get it. It takes a lot to run tournaments and an organization. And when you begin to see the bigger picture, you sort of say, of course, it makes sense to have a players association.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I know in doing some research, and also Mace has spoken with you, you discovered Frisbee golf, and that time it was Frisbee golf because it's before the Beveled Edge, on Ward's Island, on the island, as we like to call it, in
Yeah.
1981. You and your sister are over there.
Yeah.
What, on a day trip, just relaxing,
Yeah.
just walking the two of
Yeah.
you guys?
Yeah. I'd never heard of Frisbee golf, but yeah, my sister, who was living in Alberta at the time, was home visiting, and we went. It was a beautiful day. I think it was in September, and we just were walking along Ward's Island, and we saw these guys shooting towards a pole hole, and they saw us. They saw us looking,
Okay.
and yeah, and that was Bob Blakely and John Blakely and Ken Westerfield and Patrick Chartrand
Wow.
and all the boys from Beaches, Doug Cooper.
Just the early who's who of
Yeah,
Toronto.
yeah, all those guys, and yeah, so they encouraged us to come and try our hand at it, and we declined at first, but eventually they persisted, and we went, and that was the beginning of falling in love with disc golf.
Now, but
Yeah.
but you had, I mean, obviously you've been aware of the Frisbee. When do you remember when the Frisbee entered your consciousness, entered your world?
I think it was probably elementary school coming into high school, so that would have, I'm born in 1960, so that would have been the early 70s. And yeah, I'm from a big family, and so any sports and a Frisbee then, Canadian Tire, they were pretty crappy crappy little discs. But yeah, always just thoroughly enjoyed throwing and catching. And even before I saw other people doing tricks and behind their back and under their leg and stuff, it was, my friends and I were already practicing. But yeah, just love to throw and catch.
So were you and your friends kind of doing your own trick catches?
We didn't know what we were doing, but
Okay.
we would just automatically try and catch it behind our back or under our
Nice.
legs. And it wasn't until the hacky sack and frisbee festivals that would go on where I then started seeing people freestyle.
So wait, was there a hacky sack festival in Toronto that you went to and you saw this?
Year after, like
Okay.
after 81 that we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just find it amazing that you, like, it's one of those secret society initiations. You have to know the right person to get initiated. You just happen to cross paths with some
Yeah.
of the most celebrated names in Canadian disc golf history, Canadian
Yes.
Frisbee history,
Yes.
and they initiated you into the secret fraternity of Frisbee.
They did, and I'll be forever grateful.
Now, I just have a quick question. I know when I started going to Centennial, but not as soon as when I went to Centennial Park, when I started going out the league out there, I met Jo Gallagher,
Mhm.
and now I understand that he's your brother.
That's right. We're both Jo Gallaghers.
His PDJ number is 3840. So you
Hmm.
obviously were into the PDJ before him. But was
Yes.
he into frisbee before you?
No, I was into it before but again, he was a very talented baseball player and just an overall very good athlete. So as soon as he saw how much fun disc golf was, he started playing and could easily right away throw exactly twice as far as me. Like
Wow.
just he he was a natural. And
You-
he never really pursued it professionally at all, other than probably going to a few tournaments. But he could throw really far.
So the competitive and athletic spirit goes to the Gallagher family quite strong,
It does.
even into the Tucker dimension too.
How many siblings?
Yes, I'm one of 8, so I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers,
Wow.
and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and we played whatever sports we could for hours and hours and hours and hours.
And what were the sibling rivalry like? Was it strong?
Oh, there's a lot of fighting at home with stuff, but when we were out in the community, we
Sure.
were much more a team. But we were all very good baseball players, and yeah, because we basically could
Well,
decide
they
we could
stopped
we
one
could.
short of having the whole team, your parents, then,
That's
you know?
right. That's right. But my dad was a good ball player too, and he
Okay.
was a
I mean,
he was a back
you guys
catcher.
probably, I mean, did you guys play any basketball? Because I mean, you could field 5 and have 4 on the bench, you
That's
know?
right.
I mean 3 on the bench.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the split,
And,
boys and girls?
yeah, 6 girls and 2 boys.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Those boys didn't stand a chance.
No.
So okay, we're gonna jump into your disc golf career, but before we
Sure.
get to 1984, from 81 to 84, how did it develop where you go from first visual contact with the frisbee and being thrown at pole holes to starting to pay your entry fees for tournaments? What was that process like? What did you play leagues?
Just started hanging out on the island morning, noon, and night. I at the
Heard
same
the
time,
story
yeah, it's a
lots
common
of
story.
times,
Yeah.
lots of times from
Um,
different people.
I sort of fell in love with disc golf, and very soon after, Ultimate came to Toronto, and we didn't know the rules or anything, but in the beaches, again, Alex Hughes, I guess is Alex from Texas
He's from
originally?
Texas.
If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Alex was teaching us a lot about disc golf and Ultimate. Um, and yeah, so my friend Mina Cordero, also a disc golfer, Mina and I just started going down to the island and playing. Yeah, we were obsessed. So
Nice.
between sort of 81 and 84, we just couldn't believe that you just needed 2 or 3 discs and 275 to get to the island back and forth. That was before Centennial. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know when Centennial course came, but I think it was much later.
I'm pretty sure Centennials and the island were put in roughly in the same
Same
year.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, same week. Okay.
But I
I
mean,
didn't know about Centennial.
yeah, like if you, same with me. I kind of grew up in the game starting on the island, and I
Mm.
only knew about the island. And then I just heard these words, Centennial Park. What is that? What is even that? I don't know.
Yeah.
You speak of this like it's some kind of hushed secret out there, and then you go out there and
Yeah.
you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't want you to get
Yeah.
lost in the cattails.
Let's
Oh,
let's
yeah.
jump let's
Lose
jump
a
into the
disc.
disc golf. Let's go right into it.
So, when we talked the other day, you told me you were just a rec player, but I've read through all these stats that Paul's dug up, and I kind of want to almost argue with you, but I'm not going to since I just met you recently. But according to Statmando, um, you've played 39 events and you got 20 wins. You know, that's
Mm.
better than 50%. So I want to be this kind of rec player. You got 31 podiums, and 37 top 10 finishes out of 39 events. So I think that's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. I mean, my son-in-law looked me up, and so because I was telling my daughter Erica and her partner Callum are both very good disc golf players themselves. So Cal looked me up, and so I'd never heard these sort of stats before. 20 wins. I said, I don't think I had 20 wins. He said 20 wins out of 32 events or something. And I was like, okay, I have no idea. But for me, when I think back on it, it feels like I probably won 5 or 10 tournaments. That's sort of what it felt like to me before the next generation of women started coming up and spanking us, putting us to shame.
Now, obviously, one of the historical facts is the reality. We didn't attract a lot of women players, like with some other smaller divisions, and so there were times where you showed up and there was one other woman or two other women, and so it may not have felt like a big deal. But you've played in big tournaments where there have been 15 to 20 plus participants in that category, and you've won a few of those. So we're going to go through this. We're going to
Okay.
not dwell on everyone, but we're going to pick out a few. And so let's just start with your very first. It's 1984, early in May. What are you doing, first of all, before May 26th, 27th, before we get to the 1984 Toronto Island Open? Where are you in your life? Are you in university at this time? You're finished university? Are you free? What are you doing?
So this is May 84?
Yeah.
May 84, yeah. So I'm in my third year of a 4-year program at Ryerson in the social work program. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. I'm living in downtown Toronto, in my first apartment ever, living on my own. Love that. And so, okay, the 1984, there we go.
So Ken Westerfield is the TD. You've already met him. He was one of the guys who lured you into the whole disc golf world. Were you aware of what kind of iconic name Ken Westerfield was at the time? Did you?
No, Ken, such a profoundly shy, kind of introverted man, a man of few words. But yeah, met Ken in 81. So I'd known Ken at that point, but no, I had no idea in terms of where Ken had come from and how long he had been playing, not just disc golf, ultimate, freestyle, distance, MTA. We had no idea. We just thought he was kind of this unusual, like super tall, super long beard,
like Gandalf.
Gandalf with a sidearm that you just couldn't see where it landed. It was so he would just release his flick with no effort. Unbelievable.
Okay, so some of the other names I want to ask you about in that tournament, you went in a field of 2 over Sue Pay. Now that's kind of not really fair because you beat her by 21 strokes, but you played against Sue very often. She was from St. Thomas.
Yes, love Sue.
And do you have any Sue Pay stories?
Sue Pay. Loved the whole crew. Loved Jimmy Pay and Jamie Pay and Susie Pay and Bob, and yeah, the St. Thomas crowd. We loved them. We loved their beautiful disc golf courses in St. Thomas. They really did a beautiful job because there's 3 courses within a very short distance. And Sue Pay and we were fast friends as soon as we met each other because she's got a big mouth. I've got a big mouth. She likes to party. I like to party. We had a love-in, Susie and Mina and I. So for many, many years, we would look forward to the summers where we'd either see each other in Toronto or or in St. Thomas, and then eventually we'd be going to tournaments in Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or somewhere. But
Okay.
love Susie Pay.
Well, St. Thomas has always been not only our kind of direct rivals, but a foil to us. And there's
Yeah,
lots of times where we made some of our best friends who live down there, and
yeah,
it's great.
yes,
Okay, so one question I want to ask you, Pat Chartrand,
yes,
one of the greater freestylers that came out of the Canadian scene, three-time
absolutely.
Canadian Open freestyler, I believe.
Yeah,
He came third in that tournament. Do you remember Pat at that time?
I do. Pat's, but Pat, very close friend. Uh, Pat, yeah, would have met. Pat and I knew each other both through disc and because his wife and is also a social worker and I was a social worker. So I had met Marilyn, his wife. Um, so Pat and we also started playing ultimate and disc golf together at the same time. Yeah, it was. Then Pat fell madly in love with freestyle and went on to become just a super competitive, exciting uh, freestyler. And so then Pat and I lived in the same neighborhood in the beaches, and our kids went to the same school. So when I reconnected, when I met you, Paul, at the disc golf course in the beach, and Pat has started playing. Both Pat and I started playing again after a number of years. So I got to see him again, and he's one of my favorite people. Love
That's
Pat.
awesome.
That's awesome. Lifelong friends.
Yeah.
I got a big dose of that this last weekend at the United States Women's Championship, going back to Austin for the first time in I couldn't even tell you how long. But so many people just like that, where you're just like going, how did I let so much time get between us? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty amazing the way they just pick right back up where you left off.
Yeah. It's an awfully good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so before I kick it over to Mason, we talk about your PDGA or your Worlds appearances. I want to just finish off in '84. We're still going to stay with '84, but you played the Masters tournament, which was a TD tournament directed by Bob Blakely. Assistant TD was Ken Westerfield. Now, at that tournament specifically, we have Marie Jackson. She wins. Paula Elsner takes second. You take third. Patty Kunkel takes fourth, and Karen Brown takes fifth. Marie Jackson is a world champion. Do you remember her?
I just ever so. Where was she from?
Oh, that's a good question.
Don't know. Yeah, certainly Marie. I just remember the name, but yeah, I don't remember too much about Marie.
Okay, so how about Patty?
Patty Kunkel.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I guess, I wonder if that's the first time I met Patty. Patty Kunkel, Patty and John David. Yeah, Patty Kunkel, just one of my favorite people connected with disc golf. Uh, Fun, encouraging, delightful, so positive. Uh, I mean, her Southern, for me, the Southern slang, because I think Patty, I think they're from Georgia,
Yeah.
Atlanta.
and yeah, Atlanta, yeah. So, and of course, then they owned and ran their disc golf store. I forget what it's called now. I knew it forever.
I think it was IFO, wasn't it?
Yeah, identified flying objects.
Identified flying objects. Yeah. So, I mean, so this is '84. So yeah, I would have enjoyed looking forward to seeing Patty Kunkel at any of the big tournaments that I would have gone to after that, because uh, big energy, big heart, big smile. Love Patty.
So a question before we turn over to Mace here. This is your first chance for real big American female pros to come up to Toronto and play in Toronto events. Had you heard of them before this, or was this your
No.
first? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, never.
So you
idea.
show up on the team, you say, "Hi, my name's Joe. Nice to meet you, Patty." You
Yeah.
don't know that she's like
No.
okay.
No.
That's pretty
awesome.
cool. That's like a total, yeah, I like that. I like that. I mean, like one of the things I was thinking about a second ago when we were talking about there's so many common threads. Like, we're talking to you about the 80s. We've been talking to a lot of people about the 70s as well. But
Mm,
it's obviously these instant deep rooted, seemingly deep rooted, but certainly instant friendships that you strike up with people that can lead to you even like being asked at sunset on a Friday night, hey, where are you staying this weekend? I was like, oh, I hadn't figured that out. Well, hold on a second. And they call up and they go, yeah, so is it cool if I let them stay at our house? And their wife will give the yay or the nay.
yeah,
And you're either going with them or you're going to get a room. But
yeah,
most of the time, in my experience, you're going to their house, and then
yeah.
next time you're in town, they expect you. And to me, that's one of the best things about all of this Frisbee stuff is that there's such a deep degree of couch surfing going on, and getting to stay with people, and then really truly getting to know them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the camaraderie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the few times where after a while, I got to a point where I really didn't want to stay with and tax a local person whenever I was going to the world championships. So you've got a few of these on your list as a recreational player, I might add. But you're tied. You've got a special stat that relates to your performance at the Worlds. So you're tied for 19th with the most top 5 finishes, and that is 3 out of 4 Worlds, which is a 75% rate of finishing in the top 5. And that's I think that's even, I mean, that's very impressive for you, but it's also equally as impressive that there's 19 other people that have pulled off a 750 top 5
Yeah.
ratio in the women's division over the years.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty neat thing. So
Hey,
1984,
thank you.
yeah, I would have, who comes up with these stats?
Yeah.
There's a lot of nerds out there.
Yeah, Paul.
No, but hey, I rely on the nerds. That's
Right.
tech support. Tech support. Sorry, Geek Squad.
So, well, yeah, obviously me too. 1984, you took 14th. 86, you took 5th. In 87, you took 3rd, ahead of Elaine King. 3 ahead of Elaine King, excuse me. 13 ahead of Gail. 16 ahead of Mina Cordero. That's pretty impressive.
That's
Elaine,
fun. Yeah.
do you remember being able to beat Elaine?
I do because I remember when Elaine first started, right? So, I mean, I met Eric, her husband before I met her, and then I met her, and I just couldn't believe she was like a PhD, like neuro. She's just kind of this academically brilliant person.
Probably one of
Um,
the smartest ones of us of all.
Yeah.
and so there she is, just this young, you know. Yeah, so it was lovely to watch Elaine start and begin, and then
Just
take off,
launch.
and then continue to do as well as she has for all these years.
Yeah.
Super impressive. Yeah, so for a long time, for the first couple of years, I would beat her, and then it would be very close,
And
and then she left me in her dust,
then
and I say, carry on, like, gosh, how amazing.
And
well,
she certainly has.
I mean, your mastery of flying discs was more relegated to the ultimate side. She focused all of her energies on the disc golf side. It's one of those epic, glorious what ifs. What if Momma Jo decided to put all of her energy into disc golf? I don't know. Would we have
Yeah,
a 4-time world champ right in front of us? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, curious
So,
to think about.
It
so
is.
let's
That is a good thing to think about. Well, so in 88, you took tied for 3rd again with Vanessa Chambers, and then you were 3 behind Elaine this time, and
Mm,
you were 11 behind Chris O'Cleary.
mm.
That's still impressive. I mean, 14th, 5th, 3rd, 3rd. It's a pretty good jump over a matter of 4 years.
Well, thank you. I remember. So, did Toronto host in
87.
86?
Kevin.
87.
Yeah.
And did you say I came third there?
Third.
Yeah, third. But that wasn't the plan, of course. So was it? So did Vanessa come first, or do you have that?
In 87, we had. Okay, so let me just skip here. Vanessa wins, and Chris O'Cleary was 1 stroke
Yeah,
behind Vanessa.
and then me.
And you were 7 strokes behind those two.
Yeah. So what happened there was we had a tournament the weekend before
Right.
at Centennial
Yeah.
Park, and I wish that I had not played in that tournament because I won that tournament.
Yep.
And because I beat Vanessa.
Yep.
In that tournament, and because I had myself winning the 1987 whatever was it called, Worlds?
Yep. PDJ World Championships.
PDJ World on my course. I'm like, of course, I'm going to win that tournament. So I had been mentally and physically, but what I did was I went out to Centennial Park the weekend before, windy as all get go, and I played my little heart out, and I won. But that was, in retrospect, I just wish so much that I had not played that tournament, and then I think I would have been in a better situation to beat both Vanessa and Chris.
So you cast all your pearls.
But I was actually quite injured for that tournament, which is why I was 7 strokes back. I mean, and Chris O'Cleary was staying with me for that tournament. She was a good friend of mine.
Wait, did you injure yourself at Centennial?
Sorry?
Did you injure yourself at Centennial?
I pulled ligaments. So I was just not in good shape for, I was mentally not in good shape. I threw my heart out into the wind at Centennial. I mean, it was just, and the whole week leading up to Worlds, I was just going, what have I done? Anyway, I played to the best of my ability, but I remember being tremendously disappointed with the 3rd place.
Well, not to say that Canada's hopes were riding on yours and Sully's shoulders, but there was how it was. Now, just to say about that Centennial tournament, 2 things. One, you beat Elaine by 27 strokes. That's in the permanent record. That's posterity. We're not, as archivists, we're only
in that tournament.
Historical truth. Okay. Yeah. The other thing is, I remember in 1996 watching a VHS tape of a recording from that tournament. That was one of TSN's early attempts. Gino Reda of TSN team. Yes. He was in a director's chair beside, I don't know if it was Phil Palumbo or Lenny Zielinski. I don't know, one of those two. Whoever the tournament / major promoter was of that tournament, the two of them were sitting in director's chairs with a tripod camera on them, and they were just commenting on the play. That Rob Laurie has a copy of that.
Like he drew the short straw that day at work.
Maybe.
I remember Rob.
So I remember seeing that tournament. I remember seeing the win. I remember seeing the catastrophic effect. If anybody has ever come to Toronto and played Centennial Park in the wind, they know what kind of bugbear that is.
There's not much to stop the wind over there.
No.
I mean, it can block a little bit, but so this Rochester Worlds, what year was that, Paul? I'm sorry, but you didn't put this on there.
84.
Okay, so that was the first go around. So in 84 at Rochester World, you tied for 14th of 25, but like it's a who's who that were right up in there. Marie Jackson wins. Judy Horowitz was in there. Vanessa Chambers, Michelle Marini, Tina Booth, Mandy Cordero, Andy Young, and Lynn Warren. And we've had Andy on. In fact, I saw Andy in Austin. It was really good to see her again.
Cool.
And so, yeah, she's wrapped up the sale of that golf course. And one thing that's very cool is that Spring Valley will be continuing on with disc golf and ball golf under the new
Cool.
ownership. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
But anyways, I'm looking at those and I'm just going, yeah, I'll probably have a hard time beating any of those ladies back then.
Yeah.
Maybe now.
What was that like going down to Rochester? Like there was a big Canadian contingent that went down there. Before the Rochester Worlds, what was the mood like in Toronto?
Oh, I mean, exuberant, excited. It's just, we just were a small group, who knew each other so well. So, and it was so nice that Rochester was only, 4 hours away. And yeah, I mean, for me, meeting all these women and getting a chance to play with Michelle Marini and Tina Booth and Mandy Carrero and Judy Horowitz. Yeah, it was just tremendously inspirational. I just thought, oh gosh, I can easily be as good as these gals. Like I just have to play more. But that's what
Right.
I remember, just being very jazzed up.
Nice.
All of us sort of were, because yeah, you think you're pretty good until you play with people who are a lot better, and then it's inspiring, gives you something to shoot for.
Now on the women's side, we've already seen Marie Jackson wins. You've already played against her, but on the men's side, it was a 16-year-old relative phenom from California who won the men's side. Do you remember Sam Ferens? Do you remember that
I
side?
do.
What was your impression of that?
Oh, just such a sweet, he was just so cute and blonde and dum tall and skinny, and and he was a phenom. It was just watching how far he could throw, and just the confidence of youth, right? It's like older players get up in their head and they have these conversations with themselves, but Sam, just, yeah, he was just raw talent, and just a really nice guy, and just really young, very much like I remember Chris O'Cleary, just being just raw talent, and quite confident, just kind of like, yeah, I'm really good at this.
When you looked at Sam, did you think every Californian stereotype that you've ever heard or thought?
Exactly. The guy, I mean, 6'2", just blonde hair, just as cute can be, white teeth. It's like, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna turn you to the opposite side of that stereotype, as uncute as uncute can be generally. We're gonna we're gonna turn to 1985, and this is
Settle
your
down,
first.
Pete. Gee whiz.
Sorry, this is your first experience with St. Thomas. What was that like? Your first, because you had heard about St. Thomas and you'd met some of the St.
Right.
Thomas players come up to Toronto, but this
Yeah.
now 1985, you're playing your first tournament kind of outside of Toronto. Well, you've already played Rochester, but what was your first experience like with St. Thomas?
How did I do? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
It was so fun. It was great. It was only 2 hours, from Toronto, and um, my first impression was, I mean, I can only remember, I remember VA Barry was one
yeah.
of the courses. I can't remember the name of the other two courses, but
Hmm.
I think that what was there, three courses involved in that tournament? I wonder, or if it was
They
just
usually
a,
played the flats just at St. Thomas, or
okay,
just
the
at, sorry,
flat.
VA Barry. Yeah,
Right, right.
flats. But
Um,
it's hard to tell with the PDJ record.
yeah, I mean, I think I remember just a hole from the top, very high up, and a
Yeah,
big long
that was
down.
one. That was one of the world class
Yeah,
holes.
yeah, I
That's still,
loved it.
I mean,
Yeah.
last time I was
Still,
there, it was still there as well.
So
beautiful.
according to the PDGA record, you win that tournament. You win it by 4 strokes over Sue Pei and 5 over Sue Ann Houston, who you tied
Okay,
in Rochester with.
right.
Bob Harris. He's
Bob Harris,
he was
love
a hot
Bob.
hot player down there. How did he strike you?
Bob, just one of my all-time favorite, ultimate, all-time disc persons that I met over all time. Bob Harris just grew the sport exponentially in and around the St. Thomas area, continued obviously for years and years and years after, encouraging youth, encouraging women, big fan of encouraging women. Bob, just one of the nicest human beings on the planet. Just can't say enough good things about him. He just a sweetheart.
Still one of the nicest human beings on the planet for sure. Okay, so last question I want to ask about this. I believe that's your first time playing with Gail McCall
In
in
at
a
St.
tournament
at right.
at St. Thomas. I think, from what I understand from Mace's notes, you define Gail McCall as goodness personified. Is that your impression of her?
We're now goodness personified. Yeah, I didn't know Gail really well. Gail, yeah,
Was I mistaken on that? Was it somebody else you said that about?
it was someone else I said about
Oh, okay.
goodness
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
personified. Um, um, yeah, Gail, Gail, and I didn't even realize at first that Gail. I had always sort of thought Gail was American, but she's Canadian. I
Right.
mean, she was Canadian. Um, I think that it was hard for Gail because Gail had been winning and doing very well for many years before a lot of then people like Tammy Pellicane and just like other and Vanessa Chambers and
The second wave.
the second wave. So
Yeah.
I think I don't I just I remember her being enthusiastic about women's participation and just very encouraging of other women. But I didn't get to know her at all on any kind of, not like I did like Patty and Lynn and yeah.
Well, that's a great transition. Lynn, you play the Toronto Flying Disc Open, you win in a field of 5. Lynn Warren is one of those people. You've already called her one of your favorite people on the planet. This is your
Yeah.
first meeting with Lynn Warren. I mean, she was Lynn Rothstein at the time, but
Yes.
describe Lynn. Describe the when
Lynn,
Joanne met Lynn.
when Joanne met Lynn, we we had a love affair. I mean, in terms of our energy, Lynn she's a person who has just like Patty, big heart, funny, kind. Yeah, she had real substance. I would say Lynn was a woman of substance because she was a big thinker, philosophy, humanitarian, um, and just fun, and also loved to party and just lived and breathed disc golf. So I mean, she was just easy to, and she loved Canada and she loved Canadians and uh, so yeah, Lynn and Rick also just would always look forward to seeing Lynn at any tournaments I'd go to after first meeting her because she just had such profoundly positive, loving energy.
Well, the one great blessing of this sport is that it brings us into a larger communion with like souls, and we get to
Yes.
meet people that we would never meet prior or otherwise. And I think you said it best, immediately fall in love with people, just
Yeah.
soul and soul.
Yeah.
The only drawback is that you have such great friends that don't live anywhere near you, and that's the kind of really that's what started this whole thing with Paul and I is that we're half a continent away from one another, and he's my best Canadian friend. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah. So you had to figure out a plan where you guys could see each other like this
Yeah.
and keep it going.
So far, it's working out great.
I hope you don't
Good.
mind. You're just the invented reason why we're getting together tonight.
My pleasure. No problem.
All right, well let's
So
let's let's kick it off. Yes, Mace.
let's talk about the WIF Diff Worlds in Helsingborg. You competed there in 1985. You placed fifth overall. In the golf portion, Tammy Pelicane wins. Michelle Marini takes second. Chris O'Cleary takes third. Vanessa Chambers took fourth. You took seventh in the golf, one behind Barbo. What about how did you do in other events? I mean, you got fifth, so you had to have done pretty well in a few other things, correct?
Yeah, I think I think that I did well in discathon because I remember sort of training for that.
Okay.
And so I probably did okay in discathon, and I may have done, I can't even really remember. It depends who my partner was. If Chris O'Cleary was my partner, we may have done well in BDC.
Okay.
I think I did well in MTA
Hmm.
and maybe TRC. I think I probably could have done okay in distance. Not so good in freestyle, but and you had to do it all, right? So I mean, you have to find a freestyle partner
Yeah, yeah.
put together. So, oh, that's interesting that I came fifth over. I remember coming in seventh with the disc golf and how competitive the women's field was.
Looks like it for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, those are
So
some
let me
big
ask you
names right there.
this. Do you do you remember how it was scored? Like, did you obviously you probably got more points for first and less for second and so on. But was it like I'm guessing it would have been points in each division and then you just stacked up your points from each competition?
and you know, and to this day, at least I'm consistent at my age. I'm just, yeah, I'm not even that interested in in yeah, sort of how things are sort of scored and tabulated and all that stuff. I think for me, being in at Helsingborg, uh,
That had to
my
be
my
phenomenal.
that was I had just finished 4 years of university, was not just broke, but very much in debt, tons of student debt that went on for years and years. But my family and friends got together and had a fundraiser at a friend's farm to send me to Helsingborg.
Wow.
So it was a heartwarming. I would never have been able to go otherwise, and I think that whoever was running that tournament ended up losing thousands, thousands of dollars because we all stayed at a beautiful hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And there was unbelievably good food, and it was just one of the funnest experiences of my entire life. Um, yeah, so I think that I wanted to do the best at golf, and had really worked and worked and worked on my golf game, and didn't work and work and work necessarily on all the other events.
Okay.
But then going there and seeing this, because I don't think that I would have known that all those women, I think that I thought I was going to do pretty good, but I didn't realize that all these superstars were also going, because you just
Well,
didn't
that's
really have a
definitely
sense
a
of who
rock
was
star
going.
list.
I mean, there were 17 women in the just in the golf portion at least, maybe the
Yeah,
overall. So that, but the fact that you were the lone Canadian coming from with kind of Team USA, I guess they kind of lumped you in with Team USA in the identity
right,
politics. Um,
right.
First of all, did they cut you a break because you're from Canada versus the United States? I know now international travel people go, "Oh, you're from Canada or whatever," but did it make a difference to them at the time?
I don't think so.
Okay, and so you're 25. You're
Yeah,
going to Sweden for the first time.
yeah, yeah.
I've read reports from Stork and from Conrad Damon, and they all agree Sweden was just a land of incredible beauty, both topography and the people. The culture was incredible. The food was incredible. Was it an eye opener for you?
Oh, I had never been anywhere. I mean, I had literally had never been to Florida. Do you know what I mean? I'd never been outside of Ontario. So for me, it was real big. And I did a little bit of like I did a little bit of traveling before I went there too, and so I ended up going from Helsingor, Denmark, to Helsingborg, Sweden, across the strait. Oh, and that just reminded me of the party we had on a boat one night.
Spill the beans. Seriously, 'cause
Please
I was
do.
just about to ask you. I was just
I
about to ask
mean,
you what
the,
non-frisbee competitive experience really stands out in your mind. So let's hear it.
oh, just I mean, but just we were on this beautiful boat with all these frisbee players, and we're all drinking and dancing, and you're just meeting players from Germany and Japan, and you're on this boat, and you're in Sweden, but Denmark is just right there. It was, yeah, it does really feel like not real. It feels like an illusion. It feels very dreamlike. We stayed at beautiful hotels. The food was fantastic. We would all take food from the breakfast buffet and put it in our golf bags for lunch at the
Nice.
course. It was just, um, and yeah, and I remember, oh, if your disc went into a bush, yeah, the stinging nettles.
Oh,
I had never heard of stinging nettles.
Oh,
Yeah, I had never heard of stinging nettles, but yeah, so it was just brilliant. It was like it was very surreal for me to be there as a 25-year-old, never have been
wow.
anywhere else, and then meeting, you know, disc players from all around the world. It was spectacular,
Now
highlighted.
that particular worlds that was used so WIFTIF basically was created in so once Whammo gave up or once Whammo was sold and Whammo gave up the World Frisbee Championships, there was a real changing of the guard. And in the power vacuum that happened, I know a lot of the major players, Stork among them, were talking about the creation of a worldwide federation, and WIFTIF was created. So this was the first Worlds. And so at the time, there was a very real comparison between the WIFTIF Worlds and the PDGA Worlds.
Mm,
And the PDGA Worlds were in Tulsa at the time. And, you
mm,
know, that focus was specifically on disc golf. This focus was on international flying disc sports.
mhm.
And, you know, I'm reading the reports afterwards, and they're talking about how there was a Swedish television commentary, like a half-hour television commentary, that showed highlights of the WIFTIF Worlds to virtually every household in Sweden. So you guys, like, it was known in the zeitgeist, in amongst the Swedish consciousness. You step off the plane, they see you have a frisbee, they're like, "Oh, you are a frisbee player."
Yeah,
Whereas, I mean, you could step off the plane in Tulsa and nobody
people
knows,
is going, what do you
what's with that?
what's frisbee golf? Yeah.
right? Okay, so since we're talking worlds, the next topic we want to talk to you about is the 1986 Carolina Worlds. This is a big long distance travel for you. You go all the way down there, and this is where you take fifth in a field of 24.
Mm,
You're 5 strokes away from making the finals, which is huge. And that finals
mm,
featured some of the big names: Vanessa Chambers, Roxanne Spencer, Chris O'Cleary, and Ramona Hale.
right.
This is your first experience at the Carolinas. What do you think?
Well, uh, was it outside Charlotte? Where was it? Charlotte?
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Drove down there with Bob Blakely and who else? We stayed at one of my cousin's place in North Carolina on our way
Nice.
down there, um, and and we actually turned my cousin's kid. We left some discs with him. He was 4, Dan Gallagher, and he went on to become a very, very good disc golf player
Cool.
Nice. In North
15,
Carolina.
20 years later. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's funny. I just remember being very nervous at Charlotte. Again, very intimidated. with this powerhouse group of women. Again, Chris O'Cleary, good pal of mine. But yeah, just being there. So okay, so I almost made the final four. Yeah, but you see, I would have been feeling excited about that and also relieved.
Yeah, that's
because because the one thing that I didn't like about disc golf, the only thing really, would have just been getting inside your own head when you're in a final round. You know, we all know what it feels like to go out and play with friends and be thoroughly relaxed and just enjoy all of it. And then we know what it's like to get into our heads and get too hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this is not that much fun. You know, when you get just too stressed out and stuff. So I just remember of Charlotte, I just remember being blown away at the hundreds of amazing players that were there, you know, because it was for sure the biggest disc golf tournament I had ever been to.
Well, I mean, there was
Yeah.
166 men or in the MPO. There were 24 in the FPO, 21 in the Masters, and 4 in the Grandmasters. That's well over 200 players, and
Yeah,
that's more
yeah.
than there was at Helsingborg. So
Yeah, exactly. I just remember that this is the mecca, you know, of disc golf, and so
just for the
fun.
record, it should be stated, Bob Blakely came second in the Masters at the Worlds
Oh,
to John
nice.
David by 1 stroke.
Okay, by 1 stroke, right? So he was my traveling car buddy. So he would have been in. Okay, so he missed by 1. Wow.
So
Yeah,
he was
John David and Bob, they always go back and forth.
so Bob was in a good mood driving back home, was he?
Yeah. He probably had some money for gas.
nice.
Well, surprisingly a lot less money now or then than there would be now, of course. But
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty amazing how that event in itself had a huge effect on disc golf overall in that region. Simply by one factor is that Harold Duvall met his wife in the lobby of the tournament hotel at that event, his future wife. And
Nice.
and so that totally directed his attention towards living in the Carolinas and eventually moved over there and did more than his share of uh seed planting. And you know, like it's interesting. It'd really be interesting to check out what was your nephew's name again, or your cousin's child's name?
Dan Gallagher. I mean, I don't know if he went on to play like professional. He and all his buddies, they got a course. You know, they were quite inspired.
We have a lot
Yes.
of friends in Carolina, so we can maybe do a little poking and see whatever. If anything, you know, just be interesting to see if any of them know him because again, we just had Brian Schweberger on last week. Was it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he's the king of the Carolinas.
Oh,
You know,
nice. And
wins and stuff.
Elaine and Erica and Eric moved down to the
Yeah,
Carolinas.
they're in Raleigh as well. And man, I mean, well, we got Carlton Howard next, and then one of your favorite golfers right after that, Patty Kunkel. So
that's right.
Yeah.
we're going southeast from here.
Yeah.
So 1987 was a really big tour year in your recreational disc golf career. You played 10 events on the road that year, and we're going to touch on a few of them. One of them was the Disc Golf Challenge in Toronto, and it was run by Ken Westerfield. And then there was 3 FPO. You took second. First time, was this the first time Elaine beat you? Do you remember?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you remember, was she exceptionally proud of that fact?
It's just
Okay.
so she would have been very gracious as she is. Yeah. She and I'm gracious too. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let the best person win.
Well, there's one difference between you and I. I don't remember beating Elaine.
No.
You know, my first tournament I ever played was on the island in 1993, and Elaine was in my group. And I remember thinking to myself, they got me playing with a girl?
Right.
I was disabused of that illusion quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was always a treat. I played with her in a couple different places, including Santa Cruz, and I always just felt like, wow. After the first time, I was like, this is awesome. I got lucky
Yeah.
today. I got to play with Elaine,
Yeah.
because I mean,
Exactly.
she's great and she's so pleasant to be around. So
Exactly.
So okay, so 87, we're gonna continue it on. You traveled down to Louisville, the ninth annual
Louisville,
Louisville
Kentucky.
Frisbee Disc Derby. Louisville, the capital of horse racing in America, in
Yeah.
Kentucky, one of the less interesting states or more interesting states, depending on your perspective.
careful, B, you're gonna piss somebody off with that kind of thing.
More interesting. You go, first of all, this is, I believe has its roots in an overall tournament. Was it still overall then, or was it just disc golf? Do you remember?
I actually don't remember. I think it was just disc golf. Like
Okay.
when you first said Louisville, I was thinking, did I? I
Okay.
don't remember, but I do remember Dave Greenwell and
Ah,
I do remember Louisville, but wow, so 87, right? That was a busy year. Gosh, did I do any work? I mean, how did I
yeah.
afford to go to these tournaments?
Well, I noticed most of your touring was between May and September, so you must have been doing something
Right.
right. So, speaking of Greenwell, we've had him on as one of our guests. He's one of our longtime friends. What was your impression of Greenwell when you got out of the car at Louisville and you see the TD is Dave Greenwell and he's got that perfect
Yeah,
hair?
I
Walking
yeah,
with
I
that
know.
mushroom,
But I
freaking just
but I but I had met Dave in previous tournaments,
Okay.
and we had partied and we had become friends.
Okay.
So I think there may have been a little bit of attraction going on with Dave and Joanne at the time. Not big, not and maybe I mean dreaming this, right? But yeah, I don't remember much else about that tournament except Dave.
Okay. Well,
what?
let me just refresh your memory. You took fourth out of 22 FPO. That's huge.
Okay.
Three of the top five, and all of the three of the top five and the top five were all cashers. Three of them were Canadian. So you, Elaine, and Mina all
Okay.
traveled down, maybe not in the same vehicle, but in
Right.
the same wave, to a random tournament in the middle of the United States, and three of the five finishers go to Canadians.
That's
Did you,
hilarious.
do you remember that? Do you remember extra
And
pride?
did maybe Mina finished in front of me too? Because I know there was a
No,
time where
Mina finished fifth.
fifth. Okay.
Yeah.
And I finished
You finished fourth, and Elaine was third. You were 6 strokes back in Elaine.
right. And was it Vanessa
And
and
Tammy.
Tammy
Yeah.
or right?
Yeah.
Still, that's pretty good.
Look
That's
at
a
that.
pretty good
That's a
way to
I was
go
almost ready to play the
Canucks.
Canadian national anthem on this note right now,
Yeah.
but
right.
Yeah.
if you had gotten second, he'd already let it go. So right after that, you made the trip over to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I have to say, Cincinnati, I've had one. It's definitely one of my favorite disc golf destinations over the years, and
Yeah.
having played Mount Airy Forest in 95, 96, 97, 98, like all those years, that's still one of my all-time favorite courses. I mean,
Yeah.
that park, I mean, I don't know that if you haven't been there, I hope the course is still there, and I'm pretty sure it is, but even just driving into that park and thinking about where you just were a block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks ago, and I mean, we showed up one time and played 3 holes. There were new hole. The third hole was a brand new hole. 1 and 2 were the same as they were, but you went down deeper into the woods, and it was a fresh hole. It had only been in for a few months, and 3 deer go hopping right across, like right there in the middle of Cincinnati, and man, that place, I love that place a lot. So in there was 22 FPO in that event, and you won by 4 over Tammy and Vanessa, and then 13 over Gail, 17 over Patty. You remember that win?
I do. And I remember Midge. Is it Midge?
Midge, yeah.
Birkenbrecker, yeah.
Acker, yeah.
Birkenbrecker, yeah, for sure.
Oh, so would she have been running the tournament or but part of the yeah. I just remember how unbelievably hospitable the tournament directors were and how fun it was. And there was either 2 or 3 courses, I think. I was there with my brother Joe. I think Joe and I went together and we were camping. I remember we camped and I remembered I got chiggers.
Oh,
And I was like, what are
Oh,
chiggers?
yeah. Was there a course at that event that was at the Erkenbrecher's house, or did that come later?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't
It
think
came
at their
later.
house, but I remember one course being incredibly tight in the forest. I don't know if this is the right the right tournament,
That's
but
possible. There's plenty of woods in that town.
oh wow, so I won. Oh, that's awesome.
I think so too.
I mean, that's a big field. That's that like Cincinnati at the time, and certainly in Southern Ohio, that was it. On the leading edge of the disc golf sports world. I mean, they would host the Worlds in '88, and they would go on Dayton in '92 or '91, sorry. And I mean, these were important. There was a lot of momentum built up. You come down there and you win this tournament, and Mina takes 6th. She took the last cash spot.
Nice.
Were there galleries? Were there people watching? Do you remember?
I don't think there were like galleries of like public. I think there was just other golfers. Like when it came down to the finals and stuff. Of course, as always, other a lot of the golfers are cheering on or just watching the final men's and the final women's. But that's fun. I don't remember. Like I don't remember. I have a terrible memory, and so if you had asked me where I finished in that tournament, I would have had no idea.
So obviously there was no pressure in playing in front of people or anything like that. That wasn't quite the case for you.
Not so much. That would never be. The only thing that would ever get in my way is my own mind. Like there could be another negative player in our group or something, and I would just be going, I'm sorry, they're having a bad day. But nothing too much would take me away from my focus except my own negative mind chatter.
We are our own worst enemies right there. So
yes.
The next tournament you play, or at least according to Statman, or the next most important tournament is Circus City Open in Peru. Now, I've heard from, when doing research prior to this, I know that Elaine she marks that tournament for her personally. She wins this tournament by 4 over Vanessa and Tammy. Vanessa and Tammy tie. You were 1 stroke behind Vanessa and Tammy, so that's pretty tight. Podium finish right there. But Elaine marks that as her kind of coming out in the women's field. Does anything strike you from that tournament? Any remembering?
I would imagine probably going. She has just pulled away from the group, never to come back. Yeah, I remember. Because I also remember her putting was very consistent.
Still is.
So right. So we can all throw far, or I could. And my approach shot was always the strongest part of my game. And putting is just so mental, and it's also just years and hours and hours and hours of practice. So I think that tournament what I remember is just Elaine owning every part of her game and very much just very organic, very natural. And I just thought, oh, she's just starting to take off and just super, super focused, right? So yeah, so good for her. Glad she beat those gals and beat me.
And that was 87. That's really before she kind of came out on the scene. I mean, it was a couple more years before she became the permanent threat that she has been for a long time. But I mean, she marks as in the development of her professional game. This was a high water mark for her.
Love
it. It's great that you were there for that.
Yeah.
Side question. Mike Sullivan was there, and he was always one of Canada's, and we're leading up to the 1987 Island World, so he was establishing himself as one of the top Canadian players at the time. Any Sullivan stories you want to share?
Oh gosh, Mike and I have been friends for many years, and at the beginning when we were playing on the island, I was good buddies with everybody. Mike's confidence always rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. He was just, you see, people can have confidence. Yeah. Anyway, it's just Mike was.
With some people, it's confidence, and some people, it's cockiness.
Yeah. So he was cocky, and it was all fine. When he actually married Rhonda, he became much more of a calm, happy human being. But yeah, it was wonderful actually to watch Mike go from the kid on the island who was pretty good to going to Japan and winning a lot of yen.
Yeah,
a lot of yen. Right on. Yeah. Well, so I'm going to point this out up front here. The only reason I get to talk about this Canadian event because there's two in a row right here, and Paul has to share one with me.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've already talked about that. So why don't you jump in and take mine?
Never mind.
No, take the worlds.
All right, cool. So 1987, obviously we've already talked about this a fair bit, and you talked about your ligaments, but the 87 World Championships in your hometown, in your backyard, like anybody we have yet to interview anybody that's had anything bad to say about the island experience. It's so there was 21 FBO. Obviously, you talked about the disappointment with Vanessa winning and Crystal Cleary coming in second, but talk about something positive about that. I mean, how did you wrap your head around it, and how did you come out and just feel good about something? Because it's hard to not feel good going over there. I mean, you are going to get a whooping pretty much anytime you go over there in some form or fashion, but it's hard to come back on that boat ride and not feel good about something.
Oh yeah, I loved Chris was staying with me for that tournament, and so we one of the highlights, we went over to a public park across the street from my house and climbed a fence and went swimming in the middle of the night. Blantyre Park, Paul, if you know Blantyre. Lived
this
right
is
across
the
the street.
Stories we're looking for, I mean, like seriously, like.
And I think Annie Kreml was there as well.
She's awesome.
Yeah, I think. And so anyway, I had a good time socially at that time because again, Chris, I was so excited that she was up and staying with me in Toronto. And so, for sure it was really hard to lose to Vanessa, not as hard to lose to Chris. And I don't think Chris played in the Centennial, the tournament before, the weekend before. Um, but yeah, so it was entirely. I wouldn't usually get my expectations up too much in any tournaments, but I had my expectations really high
Oh,
for a
sure.
long time.
Of course,
For
you're,
yeah,
home
yeah,
course, hometown.
yeah. I mentally I had the cup in my hand.
Mm. Just to, just to note, Chris O'Cleary did play the Etobicoke tournament, and you beat her by 2 strokes.
Oh, okay. That
So
would have been maybe the first
losing,
time I'd ever beat her. Hmm.
okay. So losing to her by 1 stroke on the island, like you say, wasn't too
Did,
tough to take. But you
yeah,
had already injured yourself
yeah,
playing, throwing your heart out at Centennial.
yeah.
Oh, um,
So, one of the things that we didn't touch on that you talked about from our conversation in that same time frame was Chris O'Cleary and John Blakely throwing from home plate at the Blue Jays game.
Yes.
how
That
did
And
that come
that's
yeah,
about?
I don't I don't know who set that up, really. I just remember that they threw from home plate, and like that's how far, yeah, Chris could throw. And I think right out to, is it possible the third, like the center field wall? I don't
with
know.
a golf disc for sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Now, I mean, that's like, I think it's 405 at the corners and 475 at the middle. That's far.
That's
Even
far. So
for,
maybe that's not possible.
no, no, no,
Is it
it's
possible?
totally possible.
Okay.
Actually, I got to give credit to Google. The Blue Jays moved into the Sky Dome in 1989, so it was it was in the other venue.
Okay.
This was 87, correct?
Right.
So maybe it wasn't quite the full 430 or whatever it is out there to that
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah. I
No,
just remember. Yeah.
I think Exhibition Stadium was still all of the dimensions of a typical baseball park. The thing was that it was set up like a football stadium, so that
Mm.
like it went off this way, so it cut off on the angle. So if you bought seats way at the far end for $1, you were hundreds and hundreds of feet from the back wall.
Worst
Right.
dollar you ever spent.
Depends. Depends on where you're spending your dollars. So okay, so we're gonna skip ahead to, May 20th. What continue on with '88. This is your final World's appearance.
Yeah, so here we are back to Cincinnati, and this was your final Worlds. You at a 25 FPO, you find yourself in third again, but losing to your friend Chris, and your new rival Elaine. And
Right.
do you remember much about that trip?
Where that was
That
88?
was in Cincinnati again.
Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah. Don't remember a lot
Okay.
about
History
it.
repeats itself. We're back to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But you tied with Vanessa Chambers, and
Okay.
so that probably was a big deal for you.
That was probably very satisfying.
First of all, nowadays people get, if they win a tournament or if they cash out, they just get money credited to their account. That time, people were given. Were you given a check, or were you given? Do you remember? Were you given dollars when you went down to an American tournament and you won? Like, say, for
I think
instance, Mr. Gaddy's. Did they just give you a stack of bills?
I think they did. I think it was cash in an envelope.
And
I
that
think
probably
so.
spent pretty
Yeah.
quickly,
Doesn't
didn't
quite
it?
like cash.
Yeah. It was often just enough for, yeah, gas on the way home, couple
Right.
of fast foods.
So, okay, just a digressionary question here. As coming from Canada and our delicate gastronomical systems, did you experience some rough times traveling around the States doing road trips on American fast food diets?
No, no,
No,
I've got a very sturdy
That's just you, B.
it is
constitution.
just me. Okay. It's not just me, but there's a legion of lighthearted stomachs behind me. Okay,
Uh,
so let's kick it forward to 89. You play one event in 89, and that just happens to be the WIFDIF, again, the WIFDIF Worlds, this time in Colchester, England, run by one of our good friends now and one of our favorite friends, Charlie Mead.
yes,
You tie for first place overall with
Barbaro. Yes.
Barbaro in the overall division, and you win disc golf by 2 strokes. So let's separate those two for now. We know that you won disc golf. Obviously, was an overall, and for you to tie for first overall, you had to have played all of the events. Do you
Yeah,
remember those?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and I was I was coming off a year of travel with my husband. So we had gotten married the year before, and we
Yeah.
traveled through Southeast Asia for a year. This was at the end of a year's travel that I find myself at Colchester, and so I was in really good shape mentally and physically. Well, hadn't worked for a year, so that's always nice. And you know, I was just in really good shape. So and mentally very relaxed. So yeah, and I've been so looking forward to this tournament. And so yeah, I remember I just went in there sort of at the top of my game, and and it was just fun. So again, I think I did well in discathon and distance, probably MTA, um, and yeah, just it was nice weather, and the golf course was nice, and things worked out well.
Did anything stand out to you, like of all the other types of flying disc sports that there are out there in an overall tournament? Was there one that you were like, man, this is awesome. I wish I was had more time to spend playing this.
Well, I mean, I would love to play a ton of DDC.
Okay.
Never became super competent at it, but always thought that it just was like I see pickleball these days, right, taking
Right.
off and just huge, and I just thought, you know, at a certain point, DDC could have been what pickleball is today. Just
Nice. Okay.
That's a good call.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and yeah, just I loved all the events, loved MTA and accuracy is super fun.
Okay. Well, it's certainly one of the things that we've really that's come to the fore since we've been talking to a lot of these guests since early January is we've been focusing on the overall events. And you know, I've never played DDC. I've done a few of
I
the
haven't
other
either. I
events,
feel like I should now after
but
hearing
yeah,
everybody. Like, it seems to be like the common favorite amongst a lot of the people that we've talked to about these overall events. You know.
yeah, it seems like
Yeah,
that's probably one of the more fan favorite type of events as well.
yeah, it's exciting to watch, and it's back and forth. And but I did hear Tammy talking about discathon, uh, and it brought such a smile to my face because I was very good at discathon because I got my
Yeah,
ultimate skills,
right.
and I was young and fast, and it was just so fun to be have to throw around mandatories. And I've got my a roller, I've got a hammer, so I loved discathon.
There's something so similarly kinetic about those kind of like discathon and ultimate that really brings out like a runner's high almost in some players. And
Yeah.
you know, not may I don't want to speak for you, Mace, but I certainly have never experienced a runner's high. So
I call it a runner's low, personally.
so
I don't
let's
want to run like that again unless there's a big hungry dog that wants a big piece of my backside. I'm going to do my best to stick to bikes and motorized vehicles, pedaling bikes and motorized vehicles. But so in 90, you played 7 events. The Florida Triple Crown was one of them, and you pulled the clean sweep. Do you remember where that? I mean, where were those? What courses were that taking place at?
I know there was three.
Barnett Park had to be one of them. That was Bob's home course, so I'm sure that was it. What about, was it
Barnett.
Clearwater too? And maybe gosh, what was it? Where Ron God, I'm so good at forgetting names.
I think it was
Mm,
Rockledge was the third one.
yes, Rockledge.
Oh, Rockledge. I never played Rockledge.
Yeah, that was a tiny little course. But you go down there and you sweep.
That was fun. And Mina and I, we were just partying our little bums off.
We're all adults here.
Did you guys fly? Did you fly down there or did you drive down there?
We flew. We flew because in the end, I got this trophy that I don't know if it was like a small pole hole. Anyway, I couldn't bring it back with me on the plane because we had all this stuff and I had these trophies. But we loved that. Oh my, that was so much. We stayed in cheap motels that were like $39 a night, and it was a little bit scary. Sometimes you'd hear some broken windows outside. We would have breakfast for $1.99 the next morning. I mean, we had no money, and yeah, that was just so fun playing in those three tournaments.
I mean, that's literally for a Canadian going down there. If it wasn't for the fact that our dollar was so weak, you're going down to the land of promises and dreams, and eating is cheap. Fueling your vehicle was cheap, ridiculously cheap at the time.
Yeah,
Tournaments were cheap. Like living was cheap. You just had to get
yeah,
yourself down there, right?
yeah, exactly.
And the weather was pretty much going to be perfect.
Absolutely.
I went in 98 and it was a great time. I really had a blast. I think we played Daytona, obviously,
Melbourne was
uh,
one of them.
huh?
Did you play
Melbourne. That was
Melbourne?
the one I couldn't remember. Yeah,
Mm,
Melbourne. That was where that was where I heard about USCGC for the first time. That was at
mm,
Ron Aldridge's house. Ron Aldridge ran the event. Um, Jonathan and Jerry Gotcher both showed up to this event, and neither one of them played in it. And actually,
mm,
no, Gotcher played in it, but Jonathan didn't. But Jonathan had the his. You remember those old brochures that were the clear folder on the outside, and you had a colored piece of plastic that would slide down the end and pinch all your papers in it. You know, like a little folio kind of thing. Jonathan had that, and it was like a printed PowerPoint presentation about the U.S. Disc Golf Championship. And that was the first time I heard about it. And I was immediately, yeah, I'm in. Let me know what I can
Wow.
do. And then other
nice.
stuff happened and the rest is history. But the, you know, the Florida Triple Crown, that was what also inspired the series that I used to run around here called the Big Show. You know,
Ah,
because it was a weekend event and then like a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Tuesday, Wednesday midweek event, and then another weekend event. So you got 6 days worth of golf out of 7, more or less, or out of 8, I guess, if you thought about it. Lots of
right.
fun.
Lots
Yeah, it
of
was a heck of a
fun.
week.
I mean, that's coming from Canada in the winter to play three tournaments in 1 week, like around the state of Florida. That's just
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. That's beautiful.
so fun.
Santa's come early.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, so we go from the Sunshine State to I guess the Sunset State.
The other Sunshine State.
We're staying in 1990, and you go to La Mirada in LA, well, the
Right.
larger LA area, for the US Open. Now, just to put
Yeah.
this into perspective before we get into this, the US Open was at that time possibly the biggest event outside of maybe Lift If.
Mhm.
Certainly, kind of vied in attention for the PDGA Worlds. at least because it was in the United States. And it was always considered the biggest, the most prestigious, the largest purse tournament, and attracted the biggest field. You go down there, and this is where I alluded to in your intro. You thought were you were a hot stepper.
Yeah.
And you go down there, there are 30 women playing just at least in golf. Who knows what the other
Yeah.
overall. You end up taking 12th, tied for 12th. Some of the names ahead of you that are super, you've already mentioned one of them, Annie Kreml, Amy Beckenschiller, and Kathy Tanazawa. Do you remember those names now, thinking back on it?
Well, Amy, yes.
I mean, she was like the number one clear seed favorite, right?
Yeah. I mean, the women that I saw at that tournament for me were like royalty. It was, and not just disc golf, right? I mean, these amazing and high level ultimate players, and yeah, it was a thrill to be. That felt like being at the Olympics for me.
Right. Now, we see here that you won the Bonsai Award for friendliness.
Yes.
Talk about that.
I mean, how many players were at that tournament? A lot.
I think there were like 160 just in the men's side.
Yeah, there had to be a couple of hundred people at the tournament. So yeah, they award the Bonsai award to someone who brings sort of joy and happiness to other players, because I like to meet people.
So when they called your name, were you even aware? Like, were you just like, me? What?
Someone had talked to me.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Charlie Mead, I love Charlie. When you were talking about Whiff-Diff back in, I love Charlie, and what a character he is. So if you guys mentioned that you're friends with him, if you're
Oh,
still in touch with him, say hi from Jo Gallagher.
You bet.
he'll be on. He'll be on in May. One of the TBA dates on the poster that was posted recently. He's one of those dates. So
Cool.
I'm going to
Okay.
actually be over in Europe then for the glass conference, and so I figured why not pick up a couple of your, maybe at least one and possibly another person in Europe. So
well, that's fantastic. What a great character he is. He's so sweet. Yeah, La Mirada was amazing. I think that I think Pat Chartrand was there. Just trying to, yeah, anyway, it was and it was hot though. I remember it was super hot.
Right. Well, I mean, this is June in LA.
Yeah.
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 I mean, when I'm just now looking at the results, I'm looking quickly down the names. There's 149 MPOs they're playing, and some of the biggest names on the planet. Steve Valencia wins that. Randy Amon takes second. We got John Ahart, Mike Williams, Leonard Muse, Sam Farron. Like, the list goes on. And then we go to the women's side, and Tammy Pelican wins. Annie Kreml second. Amy Schiller's third. Chris, again, huge names. You must have been maybe a little disappointed, a little deflated, but also starstruck, right?
I think I knew when I went there that it was just going to be a lot of fun to be a part of it. But I don't think that I had super big expectations that I really would have been even in a top 10 finish, really. If I did, then great, but I didn't have big expectations, and it sounds like I'd been traveling quite a bit for the last couple of years at that time.
But it's interesting. You tied for first overall in Colchester at the Whiff-Diff Awards.
Yeah.
And then you show up a year later at La Mirada, and you're just a tourist on this. So,
and So we're talking 90, sorry, 89,
89 was Colchester, and 1990 was the U.S. Open.
right? And 89, I got married as well.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, and then Colchester, I came back, and yeah, the next year I got pregnant, and yeah, that was sort of as my son-in-law was saying, yeah, that was your your last your last eh, yeah, because I stopped playing basically after I had kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, other than recreational.
Recreational all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've established this is a really solid rec career here. So Paul, again, Paul loves the Canadian stuff, but he also, his the Can-Am series is very fond to his heart. So was that something that really got going after you stopped playing events?
That was that was just starting in earnest as I was beginning to not play as much the Can-Am stuff. Yeah, I participated in some of the tournaments, I think, but not too many.
Well,
Can't remember.
there were two big the big Can-Am years, 1991, 92. That's when UTEC was involved in the game, and he was really pouring a lot of money into each of the events along the way. And so there were,
Mm,
expanded purses. And so we had Steve Valencia and the Lissamans and Climo and Harold Hampton and RJ Jerez coming up to Etobicoke or St. Thomas. Um,
right.
and so for us, again, from this particular vantage point, we'll look back and we imbue the past with a certain amount of majesty or importance to it all. At the time, they may not have diverted a lot more funds to the women's side. Did you take note that this was sponsorship year this year, that there was extra flavor in 91 and 92, or were you just like, it's another tournament I'm going to play?
See, and I don't even know if because was because I was pregnant, so I don't even know. I don't even
Totally new
know. Did I?
focus.
Pardon? Yeah,
Totally new focus at the time.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
there's that for sure.
yeah.
So now we've taken a lot of your time, and we definitely thank you so much for taking all this time
Oh
with
yeah.
us. But obviously, we can't talk to Joanne Gallagher without mentioning Ultimate, or at least getting into more Ultimate, because that is where properly in the flying disc world, your name has been written in the stars. For us who hold disc golf passionately to our hearts, you're important to the history of the game. But in terms of Ultimate, you really have had some major contributions to the development of the sport here in Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada. Um, I know that you really agitated for a greater degree of gender parity in the game, and
Yeah.
especially on teams, especially with that 4-3 ratio.
Yes.
So talk about the early days. We had Cheryl Newland on a couple months ago, and she was one of the early um, ultimate players in the Seattle scene. And for a
Mm,
long time, she was the only female player on the Seattle teams.
wow.
What was it like playing Ultimate? So first of all, when did Ultimate enter your life? When did it catch fire for you?
Yeah. Back when disc golf did. So the early '80s. It was going simultaneously for me and for
Really?
many of the Toronto disc golfers. Most of us also played ultimate,
Okay.
and so yeah, I remember it was 5-2, and so there was five male players and you had to have two females, and we just started talking about how much more balanced it would be if the numbers went to 4-3 and four of any gender and three of it. So it could be four women and three men when
Okay.
you were playing co-ed.
Right on.
Yeah, it was met with lots of resistance, as change is, and but we also realized that it was a time to encourage more women to come to Ultimate. So we started running more drills and skills sort of workshops and stuff for other for young women who wanted to learn to play, and it was a great success. And the league made the changes, and it became 4-3, and that was a pretty good. It was a pretty good movement, pretty good change, I think, to the sport.
Now, one of the things that Mason and I have talked about, it's certainly plagued frisbee golf, disc golf since the inception, is how to get more women to the game. And now we're starting to get boisterous numbers of women in certain tournaments.
In certain tournaments, for sure.
In certain tournaments. But it seemed like virtually from the beginning, Ultimate attracted women just in general better than disc golf attracted women. Is there something about the Ultimate, like the game or the sport or the kinetic nature or the teammate nature, that attracts women just on a general basis? Or is it just from your personality that was bringing more women to the game?
I think that what happens is kids get exposed to Ultimate often in high school and then college and university. And so I think that young women who, let's say, don't play a lot of sports, but then they see Ultimate, they say, oh, okay, I've never seen that sport before. Maybe I'll try it. And so I think that whereas disc golf, people don't. A lot of people have never heard of disc golf, and they're not walking along in Centennial Park, so they just don't even know anything about disc golf courses or anything. I think Ultimate just has a higher profile in the community, and people would see it, and it's a great way to meet people, meet new friends, and yeah.
And
I have a question.
Sorry, Mace.
I just want to clarify one thing. When the 4-3 rule was enacted, that was throughout Ultimate, correct? Not just in Canada playing Ultimate? Or was that something that was across the board in the rules in the game?
No idea about the American experience whatsoever. Paul might know better, but we were just looking at our little Toronto sort of
Okay. All right. I'm just
community.
curious about that.
Yeah.
But the Toronto Ultimate Club, to be fair, is one of the major players in the worldwide ultimate scene. Like, it's strong. Toronto and Ottawa have very strong local clubs that
Absolutely.
kind of set the pace for not only for competition but for rules and for culture and all that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. And Vancouver. Yeah. And
Vancouver,
Winnipeg.
of course. Now, one of the questions I want to ask you was about the team names. When I see some of these team names, it's just the tongue-in-cheek nature of the team naming is.
Are you talking about Snatch?
Well, yeah, I was talking about Snatch. I didn't want to say it out loud, but there you go. Let's talk about Snatch.
It's a perfect double entendre. Oh gosh, I think yeah. I mean that name came after a bunch of us had played, some pretty competitive Ultimate, and now we're no longer good enough to make the premier women's teams in Toronto.
Okay.
So then you can just call yourself whatever you want. We just wanted to be able to say nice Snatch.
Well, there you go.
We're going up.
I do have to say that according to the Toronto Ultimate Club database, you and your daughter Erica Tucker may be the only mother-daughter combination to have ever played at a nationals. I know that was the case when it happened. Is that still the case now? Do you know?
I would imagine that there's already been a group of like a parent and a kid playing at the same team. I would imagine, yeah, that was in Winnipeg in 2005, and Yeah, so Erica was playing on the junior team. Oh, maybe even in Halifax, maybe. Were we playing on the same team or we were just playing at nationals?
It says you were on the same team.
Yeah. Yeah, so she would have just picked up with whatever team I was on. Yeah,
Right.
because but obviously she's a very talented ultimate player and a very talented disc golf player.
It's true, and I think the Toronto or the Ontario scene is all the better for the fact that Erica is involved in it for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So she still plays?
She's she doesn't play yeah, she started early with ultimate. She made the Canadian junior team when she was 15, and it was a U, it was either under 18 or under 19, and she made the team when she was 15, and she was
Wow.
probably one of the stronger players. So yeah, she's represented Canada. She stopped playing ultimate probably about 5 or 10 years ago, and then she discovered disc golf, and now she and her partner just play recreational disc golf. Yeah.
Just like you.
Like
Yeah.
40 tournaments a year or anything like that? Well, so
Yeah.
one of the last things we have on the script here tonight is titled Spirit. And in 91, you received a tournament award for friendliest, most spirited player. This seems like a recurring theme, by the way. And because you would consistently participate on new co-ed teams each year in an effort to meet new people and share your positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
This sounds
Yeah.
preposterous, I have to say.
I mean, yeah, it's just love including people. When, as you guys know, when you love something as much as you love to watch a flying disc fly, you love inviting people into our disc family so
Yeah.
that they can discover the beauty and the fun and the love of playing with this plastic disc. It's
It's really
amazing.
amazing. Really
Enjoy.
amazing how different discs have that ability to get the hook in you,
Mhm.
and you're just looking at that. Oh, look at that, And I mean, it doesn't matter what the era, it doesn't matter what type of disc, whether it's a beveled edge disc, whether it's a lid, whether it's a fastback, whatever.
Yeah.
You're still it's that sweet 16. Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. No, no, no. Seriously, it's the best
Yeah.
thing ever, and
Yeah.
And there's nothing like sharing the joy that makes the joy expand.
And that's it exactly, Paul. It is just paying it forward and seeing people come in and discover the fun that you've had in your belly for a long time, and it's very gratifying.
Well, Mama Jo, we can't thank you again. We can't thank you
Mm.
enough for taking this time, sharing your stories with us, sharing the joy, sharing the love. Brian and I have been united in a love for Frisbee for a long time. And again, it's sharing the joy, amplifying the joy, amplifying the good vibes and the good
Nice.
times. So thank you.
And in
Well,
all
thank
honesty, we've been getting educated. And thanks for coming on and telling us some more about a lot of this era that we had no idea about because we were just little kids doing something else.
yeah. Well, kudos to you guys too for doing the podcast and for sharing the stories and yeah, keep up the good work and thanks a lot for having me.
Mama Jo, it's
Absolutely.
awesome to see you. Go Leafs, go. Hopefully we get
Go
it
Leafs, go!
deep. We'll go beyond the second round this year, hopefully.
Fingers
Okay,
crossed.
so
All
before
right.
you close this off,
Yeah.
I want to say next guest, Carlton Howard, April 1st. Next guest after that, Patty Kunkel, April 8th. Next guest after that, Alan Beaver on the 16th of April, and on the 19th of April, Robert Leonard, we're going to do our best to include you in this. We're going to do the playoffs picks show again. So that's why I told you to stick around, Robert. We want to include you in it this year. We're going to get a few other people, and we're going to do the picks like we did last year. So that'll be a good time. And then right after that, Mark Horn on the 22nd, and I'm working on Jim Palmieri on the 29th. So
Nice.
pretty good run through
Nice.
April. And Bill Wright
Excellent.
to May. So bunch of, and then
Huh.
I've got a list of people that I just haven't confirmed dates and times with yet. So we'll be releasing that really soon, and format news on the horizon. So
So good.
Right.
Listen, look, try and get Bob Blakely on your show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great call. Bob
Yeah,
Blakely
absolutely.
and
Contact
Ted
information?
Westfield. You don't have Bob's contact information, do you?
If I find it, Paul, I'll send it to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
thank
In the
you.
meantime, you keep doing what you do out there. Spread the light, spread the love, keep smiling,
you.
and keep those frisbees flying. And hopefully the third generation, Erica's second generation, was also going to pick up the frisbee and carry the torch forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Lots of love, you guys.
Lots of love.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot,
Peace.
Joe.
Take
Have
care.
a good evening, everyone.
Thanks.